Hey guys, this is Brian Vickery, and I am in snowy Denver, Colorado. And as you can see, one day in Denver, Colorado, it can be 70 degrees and sunny, and the next day it can be 30 degrees and 10 inches of snow. So you can see I've got a little bit of work cut out for me. But I was thinking that kind of variance reminds me of something else, and that's our Klout scores. So everybody's Klout scores dropped about a week ago, and they changed the algorithm. And everybody's complaining, they're whining, they're like, oh, I'm not going to get this job or not going to get this promotion. And basically, we can sit there and choose to dig ourselves out from this little storm, or we can talk about it. So what I decided to do is, rather than focus on what my own thoughts are, of course I'll always color it with my own thoughts, as you know, I'm going to talk about some of the bloggers who I love to read and what their thoughts were on the topic. And then, of course, I'd love to have your comments, not only about this vlog, this is my first vlog that I've done, but also about what these bloggers thought and some of the color commentary I decided to add. So the first one is my good old buddy Robert Caruso in Portland. He goes by the Twitter ID @Fondalo, and you should see the Twitter ID in my blog as well as on the video itself. But he wrote the first just take charge blog about this, called "Clout Change Affects Millions, What You Need to Know." Now, he talked about anything that improves the overall measurement of one's effectiveness and influence in social graph. That should be a good thing. You know, we can live in our dream world about having these high Klout scores, but if it wasn't really a true, accurate measure of what our influence is in the real world, it needs to be adjusted. He also talked about if you're going to change behavior as a result of that score, don't change that behavior for the score itself. You still need to be focusing on changing to improve your overall results and your return on investment when it comes to social media in general, or really your digital marketing strategy in general. He also said, rather than focus on the score, there's other things that you can see as a component of that score, and one of those is true reach. And following true reach may be a better representation for a lot of us in terms of what we want to accomplish, and that is, how many people are we reaching with our message? Okay, because the greater that grows, then that's the more people that are going to be out there listening to us for us to get our message across. Robert, in his typical straightforward way, he basically says, stop whining and complaining. Okay, we can sit there and whine and complain, and really across the board, a lot of blog posts are focusing on this. And he basically says, stop it. He says, accuracy in the score should basically trump our ego in business always. Our ego can take our business to an early grave. So the accuracy of the scoring, if that's giving us a true reflection on our influence, then that's what we need to do. Now, moving on, another blogger that I read, and this was really great, is Jason Yormark. His Twitter ID is Jason Yormark. And basically he talks about, have you survived the Klout apocalypse? Okay, so I thought that was a great turn on words there. And he basically talks about, again, all these people that are talking about, oh, I'm going to lose my clients, or I'm not going to get promoted within marketing, or whatever it may be. And he goes on to say, if you're going to lose clients or not get that promotion because of your Klout score, you've got much bigger problems than your Klout score. So it still gets down to focusing on your fundamentals and what you're doing day to day, and not an arbitrary number. He says the Klout score in and of itself is not enough to truly measure one's social influence, and I obviously agree with that. Now, one thing he does point out that I found interesting is that when he compared himself with a coworker, he found that the Facebook engagement, or lack thereof, may be a primary culprit leading to that score drop. Now, I know I found that myself, in that I spend most of my time on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, but a lot of my engagement on a day-to-day basis is going to be on Twitter, or perhaps even writing at my blog at brianvickery.com. I have other friends who focus almost exclusively on Facebook, may have no Twitter presence or any LinkedIn presence. So at the end of this algorithm change, all of a sudden my score dropped, their score rose, and what was about a 30-point variance now became about a 10-point, with the big thing being they have a lot stronger Facebook presence than I do. So you may want to make note of that. Now, influence is still about sharing great content, helping others, and being a leader. So Jason, I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about that, and we should all kind of abide by that rule in our day-to-day life. Now, John Boyle is another person who likes to tweet at Brandflare, and John and I are both guest authors for the 12 Most blog site, and of course we also share a great love for good barbecue and Texas Longhorn football. Hook 'em. Really, you got to have your priorities right, and good family, good job, and good barbecue. You really can't go too far wrong with that. But anyway, the title of his blog is "What's in a Number Anyway? Be Your Brand, Not Your Clout." We seem to have got so wrapped up in this influence number, we forgot what we were doing to begin with before that number ever existed. In the case of Klout, what I like about this is, rather than talking about algorithms and amplification and true reach, he wanted to mommify it, and he basically said, in the case of Klout, think of their algorithm as a bread recipe and a loaf of bread as your Klout score. And so basically what you do is you've got Klout kind of tweaking that recipe a little bit, and you get different results each time, and some of those may not be desirable for all of us. So as they keep doing that, then some of these things may be a little bit more savory than others. One thing that really resonated with me, because Mantis does software development, is he asked, did Klout test this new algorithm against a mirror set of data on a non-production database before applying a new patch? Is this something that he's like, well, it should work, and just threw it in there and all the scores dropped, and they had no prior knowledge that it was going to be such a wide discrepancy in some cases? Or did they truly test it in a non-production environment beforehand? It's just something that perhaps they could have given us a little bit more warning about. Another thing he says is, why should obvious spammers like to follow me back carry a high 70 score, while professionals who truly engage on many of the major social networks, their scores suffered? So you have people who are obviously doing nothing but following for the sake of following and growing a fan base that way and trying to play the numbers game, versus people who are truly out there engaging and educating and influencing and basically making an impact in people's lives. Another thing that he pointed out is it'd be nice if we had some clarification. We don't need to know the exact algorithm, but how much weight do the different networks have, and should they be weighted differently? Should Twitter have a higher weighting than Facebook? Should LinkedIn groups, or even they're adding Discus and Livefire, should those things end up having more weighting? Because again, it's driving commentary, it's driving discussions even beyond the original postings in some case, and thus impacting debate. Now, the last blogger I want to reference is Mark Schaefer. I had a chance to meet him one time recently when he came to Denver, and is also the author of Tao of Twitter. I really enjoy Mark's post. I think he keeps it real. The name of his this particular blog post was "Dear Social Web, Let's Try Keeping It Real." Now, it's probably the most commented blog post on Klout that I'm still following. I still get several emails per day as people continue to add commentary on this topic. Now, some of the things that Mark points out is Klout's biggest competitor is Peer Index. And the Klout score, or at least his score in this case, is now close to the same level as what his Peer Index scores was. Yet nobody complains about the Peer Index score. So it also makes you wonder who had it right to begin with. Now, his relative influence, and several people pointed this out, his relative influence stayed about the same with some exceptions. And again, most of the exceptions still seems to be those that were heavier Facebook users, or the ones that seem to have the bigger jump up, whether most of the people who engage on Twitter seem to have the bigger jump down, or bigger plummet in some cases. Now, the biggest takeaway that I had from Mark's post was Klout doesn't care, because we're not their customer. As long as they deliver the goods to brands, we the people, we can howl all they want. Klout received another $30 million in funding recently, and they're already valued at $200 million. So as an influence measure, they're not going away anytime soon. Now, for those that are heartbroken about the hard-earned score, Mark's advice is just get real. Go make something. Go sell something. Go do something you were doing before such a thing as a Klout score even came about. Basically, in the case of the social realm, it should be to create and curate great content. Nurture a network of people who care about you. Be kind. The influence will take care of itself. And again, I think all of these bloggers hit the nail on the head. So basically what we can do is we can sit here and complain and debate and whine and put clout in the mentions of all of our tweets and just not like the situation that we have. Or we can pick up our shovels and get back to doing what we were doing before all this happened and continue digging and continue working and making an effort in whatever our work may be. Don't land on the iPad. And just get back to doing business as usual with high integrity, focusing on engagement, and just sharing the social media wealth with everybody else. So this is Brian Vickery again. I am in snowy Denver, Colorado. I thank you to my wonderful assistant for making this video. And if you like this whole blog concept, please comment, and I'll make sure to create some more. Thank you.